1.
Good evening. Welcome to Templeton Economic Development Industrial Corporation meeting this evening on this beautiful Monday evening. And I will ask Tracy Murphy, our guest, to start us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Before we do minutes, fair enough. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just as a program note, we'll do minutes if that's okay with folks. They can set out, they should be in your packet. And after that, I'll excuse myself for item number 2, and then I'll ask Liz Toth to take the gavel for that item on the agenda. Any discussion on the minutes? Any comments? I'm looking for a motion, I guess, ultimately.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I would vote to approve the review and approve the minutes for Edith meeting March 11th, 2024.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
I have a tie for second, but I heard Steve first, so Liz, I'll give you the next vote. Okay, very good. Any discussion on the motion to accept the minutes of March 11th, 2024? Hearing none, all those in favor, I'll start with Steve to the right. Steve?
Yes.
Michael?
Yep.
Liz?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
Chair will make it unanimous. What I will do is, as I said, for item number 2, I have a conflict of interest as I work at the Montezuma Regional Planning Commission. MRPC is here tonight in the form of Tracy Murphy, who's senior planner with MRPC. As I have a conflict, I'm leaving the meeting. I'm in the hallway at the other end, and I don't want to hear a thing. I'm not going to contribute. You have the gavel. Let me know when I'm supposed to come back. How's
I
that
will let
sound?
you know.
Thank you very much.
All right. Please come on. For a very happy season. Yes.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here on behalf of MRPC, as Mr. Eaton said. Karen Chapman was unable to make it tonight, so I'm here to discuss what I believe is a project that has been in discussions for quite a while. You have in front of you a proposal that Ms. Chapman presented, I believe it almost to the day a year ago. I think it was May 1st of last year. Karen and I sat down today and we went through everything and the fee that she quoted. She determined that she would keep that the same that we had. I didn't know if this committee wanted to go through the tasks that we have outlined, or if you have any specific questions. I didn't know how you wanted to proceed.
I think we're going to, would you like to walk that?
Sure. Okay, so the project itself is an economic development plan on behalf of the EDIC. And what Karen has is we'll be starting with the 2017 economic development chapter of the master plan that was compiled. One of the first things that MRPC will do in that phase is update a lot of the data. It'll be interesting because it's pre-COVID and post-COVID. So some of the data, it's actually a good time to do it. One of the other steps in this process is to come before this board again and go over a lot of the actions from that 2017 plan to find out what has been enacted, what hasn't, what's still relevant, what isn't relevant, what worked, what didn't work, and adjust accordingly. So the beginning of the project is a little bit of data heavy on MRPC's end. We'll be doing a lot of that in the office and things. When I come to talk with you about all the goals and the strategies from the 2017 plan, I'll touch on some of the data. I won't go through all of the data because it's quite cumbersome. But if there's certain data points that are pretty interesting, that are of note, a lot of what we're seeing now is work from home. Figures are a lot different than they were in 2017. And you know what those implications are for Templeton. So that first phase, I will also, during that phase, when I discuss things with this committee, I'll bring forward a survey. that we will work on together. You know, what questions you wanna, you wanna ask the town, what are their goals, some of their opinions on certain things. A lot of the meat on that needs to come from this committee because this is your town, this town, different, questions that you want answered and things. The next phase, phase 2 will be, looking at your zoning, looking at, they call it development potential of land. We have a superior GIS department that we put in different parameters, and then it will produce some mapping of what land is, developable, what is developable with constraints, what is not developable with they call it absolute constraints. Typically, constraints are your wetlands and things like that. The third will be stakeholder focus groups. That's where the survey results will come in handy, because what we can do is we can sit down with people and say, okay, look, this is what we're being told. Is this accurate? And this is a lot of times you'll find a lot of the public, oh, wait a minute, I never answered that question. And it's a good opportunity to kind of back up the survey and to really to vet it out. So that will be a public process. And again, with this committee, we can figure out what that looks like, when that will be held. Probably at the most opportune time so you can get the most people to participate. And we're open to doing that with whatever works with this committee. Number 4, I will go through various different plans that you have in place already. Different regional plans. Right now, we're updating the regional comprehensive economic development strategy. So I'll be, using a lot of the data that I get from that process to do some analysis.
I neglected to shut this off. I apologize.
Right, all right. And throughout this process too, I'll be reaching out and asking, is there a plan that I really should be looking at that I haven't, brought up and things like that. Because, sometimes we miss things, or some things aren't quite as obvious to us that are to you, that, please, I'm going to give everybody my card when I leave. And, you can always reach out to me with any comments, questions, or concerns that you have, without a doubt. And then 5, research and document funding sources to accomplish goals and objectives. That one's a fairly standard ask for almost every plan that we do. You can have the best plans, but if you don't have a way to implement them, then it's not a lot of help. The number 6 and 7 is actually the draft of the plan itself. There will be some iterations of it, and I'll send it out. I'll get comments from board members, and then I'll send out another, and they'll be numbered, so it'll be clear. I always keep a spreadsheet, a tracking sheet of comments. Not just from, just so that I can go down and make sure I've addressed them, but also so that you have the assurances that your comments have been addressed or how they've been handled and things. Comments, sometimes if one member gives a comment, but it's not a board comment, a lot of times I'll separate those out. I'll come back to the board and we discuss it. You discuss it as a board and you come to a consensus. And then after the number 6, there's typically a 30-day comment period where we will put a draft out, on your website and other, social media platforms, so that, we can give the townspeople ample time to look over the plan, make comments and things. And then number 7 will come back and I'll present to this board, and what other board you want. A lot of times the select board will be involved in that process, because it's important to have buy-in to any type of plan that you do. And that's not the time to get the buy-in. The buy-in is in the beginning. So that's why, MRPC will put together some, public outreach materials and things like that, just to get some, get some interest in it and things. And we'll also look to this committee to do that as well. So the total for the project, comes to $29,000. If I understand correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Karen said the next step would be the select board would be looking for a recommendation from this board, whether you wanted to hire MRPC to do this, or if you wanted to hire a different consultant. Again, it's up to this board. And we will wait to see what, you decide or what the town decides. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. Any questions?
Under number 7, when the plan is complete and the EDIC consumes it, it's prepared.
Mhm.
There's a public hearing
Mhm.
for that plan,
It's always best. to have-
121C, you're right?
Yes, so that,
And you'll support the hearing as well.
oh, absolutely. Yep.
And then ultimately, all those plans, all the sub projects
Mhm.
have to be approved by town meeting. Would you also support the presentation to the town meeting if there were questions?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
I will double check that with Karen.
Okay.
That particular item we didn't talk about,
Yeah.
but
I
I,
have full faith that
I don't
that
s-
you guys have got the stick
Yeah.
on this. It's just
Yeah.
basically taking it all the way home.
sure.
One thing that we're gonna talk about tonight, Steve's
Mhm.
gonna talk about a project.
Right.
So it's, again.
Yeah.
I know Steve could 100% speak to that stuff as long
Sure.
as it's within the overall project.
Sure.
So again, that collaborative environment that you talked
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
that is so important to make sure that
Absolutely.
we're getting everything that we're looking to do, that
Sure.
giant basket of stuff.
Sure. I don't want to speak out of turn because it's Karen's decision.
Okay,
I don't see why that wouldn't be supported. It just makes sense.
Yep.
When we do zoning changes and things, we go to the town meetings and things like that. So like, to your point,
Yep.
bring it home.
Right.
So,
and
yeah,
we use Zoom.
Yep.
Town meeting probably would ask to do in person.
Sure.
Because we don't use Zoom for that, but like flexibility to use Zoom for the hearing.
sure. So that would be a question that I would ask this committee, your time frame. Something like this, an undertaking of this takes quite a while. I would like to tell you that it will be done by the end of the year. That might be a little bit, we do have a lot of work going on now and things, and I don't want to overpromise and underperform. My goal would be by the end of the year, but at the very least, your spring town meeting. I don't know if that's the meeting that you're talking about presenting it at, or.
And you should ask. Through the vice.
Uh-huh.
So, we've had some challenges with
Mhm.
understanding formation and authority
Mhm.
of the EDICs.
Yeah.
So what we have the EDIC has an article, it's, on behalf of the EDIC, put on to basically do 2 things. Have town meeting declare that there is a need for an EDIC.
Mm.
And then the other one is to provide that the select board can help the EDIC, and I know the word help is not in there, but basically provisions for EOLHC.
Yeah. Yes.
LHC.
Yes,
So that's what that warrant article is
Okay.
for, to establish the connection and approval process for livable housing and livable
Yes.
communities. And to basically declare, kind of like 121C does overall, yes, we have a need. And my contention is back in 2017, in accordance with section 3 of 121C. I'm going deep, I'm sorry, but it's
That's okay. No,
really-
that's fine.
It is
That's
very
fine.
important. to
sure.
be able to-
No, sure.
So section 3, no business or no organization, no business can be conducted until the select board says that we need that. So they had a meeting, it's a couple pages long, they signed it, they basically declared that the corporation for the EDIC. There's been some misunderstanding about authority to do that, but I believe, again, with this board, that 121C section 3, the select board acted within their authority to be able to establish it. This warrant article is further giving the authority, or really housekeeping.
Yeah.
To declare the need, even though the EDIC already exists.
Mhm.
And then the further connections to livable community, housing and livable communities. So if I believe, if the board, if the corporation believes that, then we can enter into business and we can conduct business.
Right, so,
So I would say timeline wise, if we were looking to do something like Glenn, thought we might. I still think that we have the authority to do so regardless of the annual town meeting.
right, so. Thinking about this,
Mhm.
and I'll get to your question.
Oh, no, no problem. I'm right.
I thought we could caveat it as the select board does and some other things. That, we
Or pending the outcome.
pending the outcome,
Okay.
type approach to make sure. We've dotted the i's, crossed the t's.
Everybody is happy.
Everybody's happy, nobody's going, well, you did this before this, then, so
I
let's
agree.
just,
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That was smart.
that was just pending it. But, I want to see where the conversation goes. I don't know if we have anything in comments or if anything.
I kind of expected maybe one or two, but
So
that's a great idea.
pending.
Yeah.
So that's what I would like to do, but I would like to, you've been very patient.
Related to timeline,
Mhm.
you talked about the survey.
Mhm.
Generally, how long do you give the residents of the town to respond to the survey?
It varies. Some towns are really proactive and we have people that answer them all the time. Sometimes, they trickle in. So it is always good to have a deadline. Sometimes not more than a month, but, it seems to be 2-3 weeks is kind of a sweet spot. But again, that would be up to this board.
Okay. And in terms of that initial meeting, you said we'll have an initial goals and strategizing meeting if we move forward with this.
Mhm.
Is that a separate so that's our first step, that's our first meeting, and then we would have a subsequent meeting talking about the comparison of 2017 data to present data.
That would be one meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would like I said, I probably won't laden you with a lot of data, but I will extract things that are like, wow, there's some implications to that type of thing. And it is important that we go through the goals and actions of the 17 plan to see what's been, what's the status of those? Are they relevant? Do you want to expand on them? Do you want to change that a little bit? And things like that. That would probably be one.
Okay, I'm trying to gauge how many times we would all need to gather, just
Sure.
us here with you.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have bi-monthly meetings and then would also need the opportunity to bring in the town in that survey. I feel like 7 months is very, that'll go really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. That's an aggressive timeline.
Yeah.
And, and I'm leery to commit to that only because things, it takes time for things. And if we're talking about survey lasting a month, well, there's a month, so, I mean, there are things that we can be doing while that survey is going on, but, it's a challenge.
I mean, we kind of settled on every other month. There's nothing that says it has to be every other month.
That's true.
For us. The other thing is based on when our scheduled town meetings are, the annual town meeting and then special town meeting.
Mhm.
It's that end of year is like between the two of them.
Right.
We had at one point talked about the idea that if we needed to, or if there was a driving force for it behind it, we could do. An out of cycle,
Right.
one article meeting if we needed to. So,
I think we have I think we would have, I think we could have the flexibility. It's basically deciding, you get to the late summer, fall, and you take another kind of measure of where we're at
Mhm.
in progress review meeting, and then be able to say, I think we got enough to do the hearing and then bring it to fall town meeting. And you wouldn't, and even if we weren't at all, like we were like, you know what, we need a little bit more time. Kicking it to annual town meeting, if the work is done,
Mhm.
right? Contract closed, the plan is done, then we just, We're not forcing it that way.
Yeah, so speaking of the timeline and what Mike was just saying, when is the deadline for spring town meeting articles? Would be March,
Yeah.
so I think there's your timeline.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable,
Since
really.
7 months is
Yeah.
aggressive,
Mhm.
and as Mike said, we can take another look at it at the end of the summer.
Right.
But
I
if
think,
you want it on the Springtown meeting, let's try to get it done by March.
Yeah.
Next.
what we can do then is, we have the March deadline is we can back into it with what stages we want to have done by certain times. We can really, once you make your decision, if you want to go with MRPC,
Right.
Then we
'Cause you
can-
have workload too.
then we can really look
I
at
see what you're
that.
saying.
And Karen can be at the table as well, because she's got a good picture on the whole, our workload.
Ms. Vice Chair, if I can just make a comment too, I think this is a pretty solid plan and a workflow. I just have a comment on the first phase and a general comment. 2017 was a long time ago. And I know you said some things have changed. A lot has changed.
Mhm.
And I would just recommend that we don't rely too heavily on that.
Okay.
As a springboard.
Mhm.
And I've also made this point to the committee here that there's a lot of money out there for things like microelectronics that the state wants to pursue and green technology. And I'm not advocating for these things necessarily, but there's a ton of money
There sure is.
available, and companies that may want to locate in Templeton or do business in Templeton, we're not going to get that first phase of the hundreds of billions of dollars going into green tech from the Biden administration and the recoveries, but maybe we hit the second and third phase when a lot of those companies that aren't going to make it have been weeded out.
Yeah.
And I would just strongly recommend that since we have sort of a blank slate here, we can be almost anything we want to be. It doesn't have to be those two things. It could be Tiddlywinks manufacturing, if Tiddlywinks comes back into vogue, and I think we should keep a very open mind.
I think that's a great way to approach it. Think a little bit outside the box sometimes.
Yeah, and and the other thing is, I don't know if anybody at this table knows, or maybe are there guide certain deadlines that are annual deadlines for some of these grants
There
that we're
are,
going,
yes, yes.
that we need to keep in mind for our due dates, so that way we're inside the window.
Absolutely. That the short answer, yes. I think what's gonna, as the plan gets developed and we start seeing some goals and we start seeing some ideas, it'll give us a better idea of what programs we're looking at. And then that will bring in the deadlines and things. The state has put a lot into the one stop, and that deadline is in a couple of weeks, so that's not the only, there's EDA has rolling deadlines for certain grants. So it really depends on what you're looking to do and what your funding source is.
I did, and I think my only other question is, in terms of us being prepared for that strategizing meeting, do you have materials that you typically give?
Yeah,
Do
I
you have
usually
examples?
will do a packet ahead of time, and I'll make sure that I send, things out well in advance so that you have time to look it over and form comments. It just is a better use of everybody's time rather than, showing it to you right now like this. And, you need time to think about things and stuff, so.
What I was gonna say, I'm right in a motion.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. What I was gonna say about or offer, and feel free to share the video for this. Thank care of TCTV. About those kinds of grants, we're not struggling. We're seeing that grants are the it's just not a lot of free money out there. It's like, we'll match you or you do it first and then we'll reimburse you. And I've seen, in fact, Westminster, at their, couple days ago at their annual town meeting, as reported by the Gardner News, they had an article pass that provided for special projects
Yes.
because due dates are always changing. And I would just say the economic development plan should kind of incorporate that
Absolutely.
kind of process and language to say that, you know, the economic development plan should harness grant opportunities by having a revolving fund, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think that would alleviate that constraint that you
Yeah.
aptly highlighted.
The funding portion of the plan is one section in, you know, that we should discuss in isolation, you know, and really focus some attention on it and strategize.
A follow-up on that.
Sure.
We've looked at an example of one plan that was circulated. And the funding section was really a high level list.
Mhm.
Is that what you would anticipate doing, or would you anticipate including materials about what kinds of activities would be in scope?
I mean, that really would depend on this committee. You know, we can go over it and, you know, I think we need more information or not, you know, we'll start with the high level, you know, okay, these are the programs and things. But typically all the programs, you know, they have parameters and it really isn't helpful information if you don't know what the parameters are.
So two things. First of all, for anyone in TV land that's curious, we sent out a copy of the Deerfield Economic Development Plan. Yes, Deerfield.
Yes.
And so when the minutes are put together, I would like to make sure we were referencing that and making it available for anybody who wants to take a look at that. So they have an example of what it is that we looked at. Each person in isolation. We did not talk. We did not deliberate. I want to make that quite clear to everybody.
And I have a copy of that in my files because I was told that that's kind of the model
But yeah,
for the plan. So,
yep, there was a recommendation made.
Yeah, yeah, it's a well
That was a
done.
good one.
Yep, it's a well done plan.
So that's the one we're using as
Sure.
sort of the draft. Okay. So based on that, do we have anybody that has any other questions for her? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Okay.
If does anybody?
I don't have any more questions, but I'll give you a session.
Thank you.
All right.
I would move to enter into an agreement with MPRC pending favorable action of Article 7 at the 2024 annual town meeting to provide the economic development plan for Templeton EDIC as presented in the amount of $29,000 with a possible 10% contingency as authorized only by vote of the edict, and following a schedule designed to deliver such plan with the intent of being included in the 2025 annual town meeting warrant.
We're in 20.
We're in 2024.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, I'm just making sure.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, do I have a second?
I will second that very excellently and thorough motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any discussion?
What is the 10% contingency?
You know, we talked about, so did you say 7 months?
Yeah, well, was it 7 months to the end of the year? Is that 7?
Right, if we're gonna have a schedule
Yeah.
and if I just like to have a contingency just in case they're like, you know what, this is, I talked to Karen and we normally didn't support town meetings or something like that, or I just want to be able to take care of and buy our vote if we needed to go a little bit over.
I think we would have
$900.
11 months if we're talking March submission for the town meeting.
That will be the very end.
They'll have plenty of time.
Yeah, that should be.
Yeah, I feel good about that.
And I like the idea of backward planning so we can come up with some, a plan of action with milestones.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Right, absolutely.
And I made such motion, based on all of the understanding that we have right now. And I really, Ms. Weiss, I think that was a really good understanding that there's a lot of different ideas of where we're at with it. I think this kind of consolidates and simplifies to be able to say, let's not put the cart in front of the horse and move forward.
Any other comments? No? Okay, I'll put it to a vote. Start over again, Steve.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And myself? Yes. And Glenn has abstained. He's out of the room.
Well, I look forward to working with all of you.
Yep.
I think it's an exciting project. The next thing will be, the contracts, which
Yep.
Karen will take care of all that, and then we'll set up some timeframes and, when we'll come to in-person meetings and things like that.
Right. Our town meeting, Article 7 will be voted on next week, on the
Okay.
15th.
Terrific, terrific.
So just time next year is when the spring town meetings. All right, thank
Plenty of
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
It
for
was
being here.
nice meeting all of you, and I just wanted to give you my card,
Oh, thanks.
and please feel free to, send me an email. Email's probably, it's probably the best, just because I do all the meetings and. Thank you very much.
Very nice of you.
Yes, you as well. Have a nice night, everybody.
You too.
Thank you.
I think go in, you're gone. You voted already. See, yeah, go base, you're right.
It wasn't a question.
Yeah. All right.
You and I,
Yeah, it's okay. It's good.
we're good?
Yes,
Okay.
and the gavel, the chair is yours again, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All yours.
Thank you very much.
So,
Yes,
yes, so it was successful. And the MRPC will be handling putting the plan together for us.
sure they'll involve me in a staff meeting in the future, maybe, even at work, I'm just trying to stay the heck out of it, because I don't want a conflict, so. I
Yep.
really want the four of you to really try this. The only time I'm gonna really speak is maybe when we have all the forums, public meetings, I'll go to those, sit in the back row and do that kind of thing, but I don't want any question of a conflict. So thank you very much, all, I appreciate your time, your effort. So without further ado, may we go to item 3, digital signage discussion. Steve has a handout, may I give you, Steve?
Thank you. Glenn. Appreciate that. Try to share my screen here.
As Steve is lining up the screen, you just check on Q and A, and I cannot, even though I have a brand new prescription glasses, I cannot see that far. So there's nothing in Q and A, I think Aaron.
It wasn't a
would say
question,
something.
but Mr. May had made a comment about legality of any actions of.
Oh, okay,
What we did was, it was contingent on successful outcome at the time meeting.
right, okay, and it's being addressed at the town meeting at Article number 7.
Yeah.
I'm planning on going to that.
Yeah, my description was quite surgical in
Okay,
the way that we're proceeding forward and the piece of authority that we have.
thanks very much. So see everybody at the town meeting.
I credit Liz for coming up with the ideas to post date our decision. I think it was a good plan.
Okay.
So if they say no,
Then we're nothing.
yeah,
We are advisory.
We just hang out.
we just hang out, right?
So Steve, back to you. So that was the only question, nothing else in the queue. Steve, back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
It's the EOLC, the livable community.
Right.
We would have that to track and tackle. I'm sorry, but
No problem, thank you.
Okay, so for several years now, we've had our eyes on digital signage. And what that means is some electronic signs that you see outside in the area and also some interior signs. In this proposal, we're focusing on electronic signage. And this committee expressed a wish for possibly welcome to Templeton signs. And I took this as an opening. So to talk about digital signage, because I think we can do a lot with it in this town and really set ourselves apart from other towns and actually help our business base grow with electronic signage. And our employee, Alex Harrison, is also online. Alex put this together. Alex and I have been visiting numerous signs throughout the region, and Alex is a former sign manager of a company. So we lucked out in that. Thank you for being here, Alex.
Hi, hopefully you guys can hear me.
I'll just go through this quickly, and I would ask you to look at the handout, take it home, think about it. We don't have all the information that we would like to present you yet in terms of costs and what this could mean for Templeton and TCTV, but we are working diligently on that. So a digital sign is also called Electronic Message Center, or an EMC, and it can display all sorts of things. We are not advocating that you build this kind of a monster. Although it's a big sign.
A triple dog dare you.
I'm not sure you'd want to give me that much money for this sign, but
Not sure we would either.
yeah, and it needs a cascading waterfall, I think, to really set it apart. But hey, who knows? Maybe Templeton could be as hot as Myrtle Beach with this. So again, these signs can be used for a lot of different things. For instance, you could have a welcome to Templeton on top as a static image, and then an electronic message board in between, and then maybe some static sponsors below. And you can use these, well, as Alex has outlined here, it is the most effective way to communicate about events, businesses, and other things in town. And I think we all know the popularity of roadside signs, and especially with people who want to put them on the common and so forth. And it's a little frustrating for TCTV because we want them sponsoring on TCTV, but it is a good way for businesses to get exposure, and a lot of exposure quickly. So I think we could really develop a system to help businesses use these signs, and they can be operated with an antenna system or a more modern cloud-based system. So right now, and Alex may want to speak to this a little bit as we go forward, we could control them from a laptop like this, as long as it's secure and we have the right security on the
Yes.
signs. That would be very important to do.
Yes.
I know you were going there.
Thank you, IT.
And it can earn some money. So we would actually want to tie this into TCTV sponsorship as well, and either bundle that or with Montechusett TV, our regional website. I think we can do a lot with that. The steps are, obviously, we need to find the locations, what the zoning codes are, what kind of a sign we want, and we'll bring you through that, what kind of style, and is power available? We're going to need that, and who can do the work. And I think we have some resources in town to do that. So let's just take a peek at some of the signs here. Here's Narragansett sign. And this is a lot bigger than I thought it was when I saw it up close. And they're doing some neat things. Now they're actually putting video on it. It's tricky because you really only have a few seconds as people pass by. So you may only say, if you have advertisers, you may want to have an advertiser say, I want to be there. I don't want to be one of 5. I want to be one of 3. And we could price things accordingly, perhaps, with that. But Narragansett's doing some interesting things with it. And Alex has given you some pixel pitches here for resolution. So you want a clear looking sign. You may not need to go all the way to 6mm. 8mm may be enough. I'll let him speak to that as you have questions. And you also have to think about the structure. We're probably not going to need on building signs, but you never know. So that's a wall mounted sign. Here's a pole sign that's supported by one pole. Vertical is probably more used for businesses. Hopefully, we don't need a lot of personal injury attorneys in East Templeton. You never know with a Rotary though, right? I had to get that in.
It's gonna be boring.
It will be good for traffic. Here is a monument style sign that, so you could put welcome to Templeton above and have your electronic messages in the middle and maybe some static sponsors below. And Alex has gone through different things to look in a signage vendor with size, support, experience for the vendor. There are some budget signs out there, and we've looked at some signs that maybe they should have gone in a different direction. And Alex can possibly speak to that as well. He gets right up there and feels the sign and says, hey, this is, they put plexiglass on this. It's probably not a good idea. You want quality control, so you want to be able to have service as well and have a company that you can call. You want some innovation in a sign vendor. We pulled some data. So in 2002, right here on Patriots Road, I'm not sure exactly where, but over 4,000 cars pass. And that's what we would, I believe that's a day. So that's what we would tout to advertisers and sponsors. And we are trying to get some basic advertising rates based on that. So we can start looking at that.
I can augment that for you, Steve. I just looked on the MRPC website. We have a data traffic. That number is consistent with the number on 101. But the numbers on 2A are about $8,600, 82. 86, I take it back. Don't erase the word dollars. 8,600 cars ADP on 2A east and westbound from that intersection. So it depends on which road you're on, but that's 101 and 2A, it's 8,000 either side. So it's decent volume.
Yeah, and we would probably seek to get counts for 202 coming into Baldwinville and 2A, 202 coming and going from Phillipston. I would think of the busiest roads. We would want to start with one sign, maybe here on 2A, and then add some more and eventually add a whole network of signs. So somebody say in Baldwinville running a business may want to advertise in East Templeton, vice versa, or they may want to advertise where they are. But I think we start with one and we experiment with that and see what we can do. And obviously we need some information before we do any of this. And here are some local signs that have gone around and looked at. Here's what Hubbardston's doing. You may see that as you come into downtown Hubbardston. And if you went there last summer, you probably had a lot of chance to look at that sign because there was a traffic jam there as they were working on the road. And that's a nice sign, and they have multiple. That's probably about 3 by 8, would you say, Alex, that display?
Yeah, I think it's about a 3 by 8.
Okay, and that's pretty good resolution, and that's in a little park right there. It's very visible coming around the turn. It's two-sided, so that's something to think about. I would definitely favor two-sided signs. Obviously, location is an issue with that. It's got to be very visible from both sides. Here's Winchendon Fire Department. And I think that's on Central Street. And they obviously are doing messaging for emergency calls and things of that nature. Here's Narragansett again. And you see the structure that they built for that sign, and that is two-sided as well. Here's the American Legion post in Baldwinville. I believe that's up on Route, or the, well, yeah, the road up to Keene. And that's a, has kind of a pediment on the bottom, a podium for that. And I think that was the one, Alex, when we saw that there was like a layer above it and there were moths inside. And
Yeah, they had like a weird like plexi material over the front of it was like for protection purposes, but it's not necessarily necessary, I guess, to say it.
yeah, and you can have problems like a lot of dead moths inside.
Yeah.
And I think there were some bubbles in the,
Yeah, in the vinyl for the top part, they had some substantial bubbling already. And it's a pretty new sign, so it was kind of surprising.
But they had numerous messages on there and I really wanted a spaghetti and meatball supper when I was done there. So they advertised well with that. And here's Murdoch, the entrance to the middle school, and they have a sign, and I think Alex deduced that was probably an older structure that they retrofitted for that sign.
Yeah.
And that's a one-sided sign. Here's the sign in Westminster. If you come along Route 140 and you want to make that left onto the main street there at that intersection, this is not a digital sign, but it's more of a vinyl sign and with static sponsors below. And here's where you can have static sponsors to say EDIC, TCTV. Maybe the light department wants to get in on something like that. And that could be below your digital display as well. Mike, you wanted MASH signs, MASH style signs.
Oh,
And you see in the background, that little
I see it.
sign up there,
Yep.
that's actually a directional sign for various ways. And it's not kind of rickety like the
Yeah,
MASH sign, but and that's something that we may want to do in the center, say for businesses. Like I know there's an Orchard that likes to provide direction.
In the center of town, yes.
Yeah, in the center. And I do, I get up to the center and if I'm going there, I say, which way am I gonna go again? And as well for the other farm that sells meat products. And there's a butcher. So that's what we have so far. And I can also show you a picture of the MASH sign. But Alex, I'm sure I missed some things that you may want to highlight and discuss a little bit.
No, I mean, well, first of all, does anybody have any questions that comes from what Steve has said?
What did Narragansett pay for theirs?
I actually don't know. I haven't reached out to them, especially I was going to see if any of you guys had any idea, because my guess from looking at that sign is that's probably somewhere between like 23 to 30 some $1,000. Just because of the structure, and may even be a little more because of the brick structure. These signs are interesting when it comes to pricing because every detail of it could either go up or go down on how expensive it can be. So as you're preparing and talking, I've reached out to a few vendors. I haven't told them I'm from Templeton. I just said I was from a community that's looking into getting a sign, and you can kind of, I guess, a la carte the way you want to, how much you want to spend on certain things, or if you want to potentially upgrade. So for instance, the Narragansett sign is a good example where you could actually build a sign like that without the brick and then put the brick later. You could build a sign like that without the top part, but so there's different things you can do to be able to save on costs, but it all just depends on how what you want right away. It depends on what you want to do to get started. So my guess is it's around that price. It could be a little different. I'm assuming the sign is probably only 2 or 3 years old because the board is pretty new. Maybe a little older, but not too much older than that. But
How long
yeah,
did
it's somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
What was that?
How long do they last? What's the life cycle of these suckers?
So they last nowadays in like the last 10 years or so. These companies are kind of guarantee them for probably about 10 to 15 years. They could go longer. That's one of the things, like Steve had mentioned, about where you buy them from is a big thing. As we get into this project, you guys will hear people talk about certain companies who buy from overseas a lot, and then they, give you at a cheaper cost and everything looks better. But in reality, they don't have any back end to help you. So the sign itself might cost a couple $1,000s less, but there's no one to help you once you have it. And that goes into how long the sign will last. So like if you buy from a nice company that's based usually in the United States because they're able to give good support, a sign can last for up to 5 years, even 10 years longer than anticipated, because they're going to upgrade for you. They're going to do things automatically to try to keep you happy with your sign. That's kind of something. It's kind of like with cell phones, how they realized a few years ago with smartphones that they had to update them without making them worse, to keep customers from getting angry. sign companies have realized that over the last 10 years that they have to keep up with the signs without like allowing them to deteriorate. So that goes into a lot about where we buy from, is how long it will last. That makes sense.
Yep, thanks.
So, from just an electronic perspective, how much electricity do these things typically run, over a month or a year, or how's that handled?
I don't have it off the top of the head because they change with sizing, right? But they're LED based signs. So like a typical sign you see at like a Combi's that's like with fluorescent bulbs in it will probably do 10 times more power than a sign that big will in a year, maybe more. They don't pull very much just because they're run purely on LED power, which is like, I mean, we all know that it runs the least amount, you know. So they might be really big and they seem like they're doing a lot. There's a computer in it, but the fact that it's LED powered means it doesn't pull very much power at all, really.
That's a really valid point. The two things, we have a capital cost. The three things from it, there's a capital cost, there's an operating cost, and then before we spend any money, I said several times before about taking the 200,000 and trying to leverage it against other grants to build a bigger war chest or a kitty or a cachet of dollars. So we have as possible. And then we will have ongoing operating. If we only have an electric bill for 3 electronic signs as the EDIC for the next 10 years, it's an ongoing operating cost, right? And I don't expect Templeton to pay our bills. So we need to figure out revenue to pay the electric bill. So those are really good questions.
The other thing is, right, maybe I'm too much of a traditionalist, but I like traditional signs. And the first time I saw an electronic sign in town, my reaction was not positive. Maybe it's growing on me, but right now it has not been personally positive, because I'm going, we're not Las Vegas.
For sure, yeah, I understand that.
And that's one of my concerns. And the other thing is the ED, I say, yes, we need to make some money, right? But at least where I thought we were starting from was, like the MASH signs, with being able to get, a minimal amount of expenditure for local businesses, support the local businesses, get their names out there, get the hodgepodge of different signs off of the common, kind of take care of a couple of different things at once. So I'm kind of like, I'm not so sure. I can understand from the other side of it, though, that it could be a good revenue stream. You can change it all the time. You can add new things to it. There's a lot of room for growth and creativity and a whole bunch of other stuff, right? But because the other thing we started with is having the signs up on the phone poles,
Right,
which kind of got nixed.
Which is a no-go for their policy.
For their policy. I don't think we've ever talked to them about changing the policy.
Yeah.
Just this is what their policy is today.
I'm gonna make that phone call if you wish.
Um,
No, as a
Yeah,
citizen,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Because the idea is to support the businesses in town, but it's also, bringing businesses in town and being able to say, hey, you're in town now. This is what we can do for you. This is how we can help you. This is what you can do, without having an ongoing cost also to a lot of the smaller businesses. There's some businesses that only need to advertise 2 months out of the year, right? Others need year round. So it's what I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate here. And I'm trying to just kind of feel the land a little bit about, where do we set to? Do we like this? Do we not like this?
My gut is everything's literally on the table, and this is a discussion about digital. And whether it's MASH signage, or it's digital signage or static, like.
Or maybe it's a combination of everything.
I think we could do both.
It could be.
Yeah.
2 or
I
3.
think that's an interesting thing to think about is with these types of signs, like in particular in the handout Steve gave, there's a sign for that church. It's a very simple sign, that Sulphur Grove Church. But with these types of signs, you can make a very classic looking sign Yeah, if you go to the, I
Yeah.
think it's it's in the styles of signs. It's like the different ways they're
Green one.
connected.
Oh, no, you don't have, you don't have to
Yeah,
color.
windows.
But
There
there
it
you
is.
go. That's it.
Oh, thank you.
That sign is it's very simple. It's brick. It's very simple. But looking at that sign, you can see the potential of how you can make a very classic sign. You can make a very old kind of new looking sign, but also with an LED display in it.
Mhm.
And I think that that's the kind of, and in my opinion, of way these signs look the best. Because I agree with you when you say we don't want to look like Vegas. We don't want to look like a car dealership either. You know, we don't want to look like that. But it's the it's the way that it's presented and the way the sign is. I guess the way the sign is ran. So you keep the lighting on it nice. You have a good static top part, a good base on it, and then it actually looks attractive when you pull into a town because it looks like, oh look, there's a very like classic look to that sign. This town must be a very classic town, but it has a very modern appeal because you're putting nice things on it. You're putting, you know, local companies on it. People are seeing them. So LED signs can be presented in a way, in my opinion at least, that like can really put a town up if it's presented the right way. It can do what you're saying too as well. It can do the same thing if you put flashy things on it and flash signs. I don't agree with doing any of that kind of stuff. I agree with doing it very like classic, very nice looking, very clean looking. And then, you know, even making a sign that looks like the architecture, like, because these signs could be designed any way you want. So it could look like the architecture of the other monuments in town. It can blend with the other look of things so that it looks like a Templeton sign, but it has an LED board in it that's doing the advertising. So it's like, it can go either way. You know what, you get what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
it's the difference between, I mean, Hubbardston, I like what Hubbardston does. And I think the flashy ones, you go over the border to to New Hampshire and see what the fireworks places are doing with those kind of signs.
Exactly.
They're in it's in their best interest to have things blowing up and flashing and stuff.
But yeah, you look at Hubbardston and it's very nice, very clean. You wouldn't think that there's anything, seeing that you would only think better of Hubbardston for seeing that, in my opinion, because it's just a very clean, nice sign with nice things on it. You know, so it's like, it's just about the presentation, I guess, is kind of the best way to put it.
And to your point, it's really the best of all the worlds to get there. It's just, I just want to make sure we're not turning into
Yeah.
those.
100%.
And then economically speaking,
Cape
sorry.
Cod dealt with that. I mean,
Real,
oh yeah, Cape Cod, just because of summer traffic, you know, like they had, I think Hanover went through it, many Cape Cod communities went through. If you have it, you know, Dunkin' Donuts could not have a big lighted sign over a certain height, so it was like tasteful wooden signs. So
Exactly.
it's between, where's Dunks? Or, oh, there's Dunks, there's the, you know, the big sign that you can see from the highway, that's that sort of thing. So it's like you try and find a happy medium to not be Vegas.
That's a town with good design guidelines for sign.
and I think,
That's interesting.
yeah, I think we're gonna end up having to go there is having good sign. Yeah,
Good
guidance.
design.
Good design.
Good design. And
Yeah.
to the point that was raised several times about the Hubbardston sign is, as you all were talking about the Hubbardston sign, I looked at it, and to me, the New England architecture of homes is the gable roof.
Yeah.
And the Hubbardston sign has a gable on it, and probably by design
Mhm.
to make it look New Englandy. It was my interpretation. I saw it for my humble opinion.
As we were going through looking at all these signs, you know, I was thinking about the different places in town where it would make sense. It's like right outside here, there's a lot of traffic here.
Yeah.
In the center of, you know, on the common, Templeton Common, Baldwinville Common, you know, and you go through some of these different things. And it's like, yes, all these places. But I think we need to also make sure, as we're talking about this and as we're just, we're kind of formulating a plan, that we make sure we understand what our goals are.
Mhm.
You know, right, I can talk tonight. Our goals for the smaller mom and pop, are we trying to do a little bit bigger? Are we trying to, you know, advertise what's going on? You know, are we trying to give some advertising dollars to TCTV, also in the process, what all are we trying to do?
And to pay our electrical,
And to pay our
to
electric
the
bill,
EDIC electric.
right, well, we've got to pay.
All those things.
Yeah, all those
I would
things,
say all of the above.
yeah, all of the above,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think these are good ideas. To your points, I think are awesome, and I think they take care of the majority of my concerns. So, good.
I think you raise a really good point, Carol, was about, I think we write down our design considerations.
Yeah.
And we list them, we bullet them, we know that, it's, okay, the goals of our ultimate sign design will meet these parameters. And I think it sounds like we're all in agreement, we're all saying different things, and then some overlap and then separate things about. We want the design, well, what does it mean to have the design? Let's just write it down.
Yeah.
Maybe we just put that on the agenda for future meeting, and then we do some homework on our own, and we can come in with imagery if we wanted to. Or some narratives, and we did our homework. I mean, if you want to, I'm suggesting this as a possible future meeting. So.
And we will come back with our numbers and estimates. But I do think that, just talking about with Alex about general costs and what we're thinking about advertising. I mean, I would expect one sign and I would try to plan for, don't quote me on numbers, but at least 5 figures in revenues per year, and hopefully not low 5 figures. I'm not looking for 90,000, but maybe something in the middle. And then we can add signs where appropriate as well, and build that network and really offer our businesses more than other communities can offer. And that can attract more businesses to us too. And I think we're all in agreement in an early EDIC meeting that we don't want to be chasing smokestacks, so to speak. We want to help the businesses that are here.
Right.
And I think this could be really powerful. And I won't mince words, TCTV needs revenue. So that's a big reason why we've been eyeing this for a while.
Well, I think there's a win-win-win. It helps the
Yeah.
town, businesses helps TBIC, CTV.
Right.
Okay, win-win-win-win, there must be another way to something, so.
And we have the ability to run these signs and to do the graphics for them and to work with the businesses on them.
So, and that's it. I want to make sure it's a win for everybody.
Yeah.
And that we can cover our bills, that we can help support the community. We can do those things. We can properly, whatever properly means, to support and I'm tending towards the smaller mom and pop companies, because that's just, I think that's what we have in town. We don't have anybody that has 1,000 employees in town. We don't have 2,000 employees, we don't have that. We've got smaller companies, small, mid-sized companies. We still have to decide what kind of companies we want to attract. But I think we're all in agreement. We don't want the smokestacks. So, and we don't want all of our eggs in one basket. So how do we attract the right people? The right kind of businesses that are going to help the town and the area grow and be supportive. And how can we support them and have the jobs and all the other nice things that we want to be able to do as part of this corporation.
So something like this can be a capital recommendation as well.
Could you expand on that, sir? I'm
The
not sure.
capital improvements committee, so, anything
Oh, the
over,
town's
yeah,
capital?
yeah.
Okay.
Anything over 10 grand goes to capital improvements committee, they look at everything. Everything, voting machines, rolling stock. If there's a need, that's where we're generating requirements, so.
Gotcha, thank you. I wasn't sure. Thank you. Mike.
Yep.
It's like one of these signs,
Right.
one of these signs out here, out front. Hey, voting is coming up, town meeting is coming up, go pick up your annual report, go do this, go do, all of those things. The excise bills are due.
Right. That we use emergency signage for, like every other community.
Yeah, right. So you can save some money on that end
Yeah,
too. But
we can help municipal officials like the tax collector say, hey, please be reminded. In addition to someone paying advertising on something and so on and so forth. And I agree with the small business support issue.
And I think as well with the small businesses, I think for like them paying to be on there, of course, we could have structures of some kind, so people don't, we don't want to make people not be able to be on it, but I also think that when you have a nice looking sign like Hubbardston's and people are driving past that aren't from that community and they see the name of the store that they drive by all the time and don't ever notice, but then they see it on there with their nice logo and a nice looking advertisement that TCTV put together, one of their graphics designers put together, that person looks at that company differently psychologically because it's something they may see every day. They just don't notice that store. And then they see it on there and they're like, oh, an event at this store. They might look actually at where that's at when they drive past and maybe stop because it just gives a little bit of legitimacy on a level. Because, we don't put local TV, we don't really have print advertising that much anymore either. A lot of it's online and it's kind of like a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad in a way, but it's just as you're passing right by. So when people see those things, it makes them think, oh, that must be a good store, or there must be something. There's something to it when they see it. So I feel like these kind of signs help little businesses like that in particular because it gives them a little shred of visibility that they're not getting to a large group of people that are just going by, even people that might have been driving by there for years and never noticed that company existed. And then they saw an ad for this company and they're like, oh, where's that at? Oh, it's over here. I never even knew it was over there. But they saw it because they saw that sign, that nice looking with a nice graphic, and it kind of gave them it gives people another look. You know what I mean? That they're sometimes when you're driving through a smaller community, you don't always look side to side, but signs like that can stop people for a second and have them kind of, think about what's happening there a little bit, or maybe see a sign for a town festival that they'd be like, oh, I didn't know they had that here in Templeton. Maybe I'll come to that this weekend. Maybe I'll bring my kids back over here. Like things that they wouldn't otherwise, like they have plenty of ways to see it, but for some reason when you see it like that, it pops a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the way I always see how it can help a smaller business is those little seconds of advertising that they get out of these kind of signs that help people. So
Well said.
And when we talk about the estimated costs, we're talking cost upfront. Would it be possible to get some idea of maintenance costs independent of electric costs? Because I feel like something with this kind of technology would need some sort of maintenance. You were talking about the company might offer upgrades.
yeah, I could speak to that. For maintenance for these signs, it's pretty low maintenance. One thing in particular that Templeton has that most communities, even larger communities, don't have is TCTV and Massachusetts TV, are a group that can run the sign for you and can produce advertisement for the sign, which is a lot of what problems that communities have is who's good to control it and who's going to make stuff to go on it. So that's already taken care of and that's already budgeted for. Technically right now, you have people who are already being paid who can create those things and do that stuff as part of their already work, right? Or interns or anything in the future that may be a part of that. So that's one of a big one that people think about is how we're going to keep it moving, keep getting stuff on there, who's going to set it up. That's pretty much already taken care of through that part of Templeton, which is a great thing that Templeton has. And secondly, it goes back to what I was talking about buying from a legitimately good company. Buying from a local vendor, which I've interacted with a few already, that buys from one of these companies, it's kind of like a car dealership type of situation, gives you the ability to have a local company who can do any small little things that might happen to it, and a large company who has a warranty for the actual electronics of the sign, if that makes sense. So a local vendor in Worcester or Leominster, there's a couple, would buy from a company, say, there's one I put on there I referenced called Watchfire. They're probably the best one in the nation. And what they would do is these companies are dealers for them. So they'll install the sign, they'll help build the sign, they'll be our partner in that process. But then if something breaks on the sign by some chance, Watchfire can outside of it access the sign with our permission and fix software problems, but they'll use that company to fix any hardware or any actual hands-on problems that might be.
So
we
Alex,
don't have. Oh, go ahead.
keep going. No, keep going.
So if there is like a sometimes a sensor goes wrong or something that, you know, detects the heat or cold or something, and there's something weird happening, we will call that local company, or we can call Watchfire Direct, either one, and then they'll talk to each other. Someone will come look at it. They'll, you know, need what they're going to get. They'll send the part and they'll fix it.
So
So-
Alex, so to follow up on what Vicky asked though, so you explained at the beginning about, you know, operational labor costs. So to engage Watchfire, there must be a service agreement, maintenance agreement cost. And
There-
what-
there-
or
There
something.
is some of those, but there's usually not. So there's usually a warranty they'll give you for about it's either 5, 7, or 10-year warranties right off the top that they give you. And that covers all of that. Most of these sign companies have that warranty that will cover any of those maintenance problems you have for that period of time. After that warranty is up, generally it's a fee that you will work with the local company. Or if it's a software problem with Watchfire, and those fees are generally not too much. So it's like if they needed to fix a part, they would come out and do that. But there isn't any large scale, like I don't know how to describe it, like you were saying, maintenance plans that go more than like 5 to 7 years. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in the software world yet that doesn't have a software or maintenance agreement, but if the warranty covers for a little while, then presumably that, so I'm seeing.
Yeah, the software is a little different. You're right.
And to your question, Vicky, I want to make sure you get your question answered, because I wasn't sure if you.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Seems like there are multiple components or little line items involved in the ongoing monthly payments costs.
Yeah,
Operational things.
I
Yeah.
think if you are, and I'm not sure how thorough you're doing this cost assessment, but if you are
yeah.
reaching out to these companies, if you could ask that question too, I think.
No,
that
for
would-
sure, for sure. And that's what I'm thinking about too, because if we can find any detail, like you're saying, when I said $23,000 to $30,000, that price in my mind is including all of that, like the warranty, the maintenance fee that would exist for that warranty, all of those things, that the cost for the cloud stuff, that's all in that initial fee to start with. Now down the road there might be more, but that's something like that you're right, that we would have to, in our contracts with whatever company we work with, we'll have to talk to them about. So what happens after this ends? Is there a re-signing fee, or is this, you know, we can set up that as we go. But generally month to month usage on this is pretty low for the first 5 to 7 years, right? With of course with a warranty, but it's really just the cost of the electrical, which like I said is less than any roadside sign that uses fluorescent bulbs, and then it would be cost to create content, you know. So, but yeah, as we came closer to actually going into contract with a company, that would be some line items that, of course, you guys would have to look through and decide, you know, okay, they're going to give us this cloud-based stuff for 7 years. What happens what's our fee going to be in 7 years? You know, like, because I know some companies do have that where they'll say, we'll hold this fee after that. So this is our month to month we pay now. And even with inflation, we won't change it. It's in your contract. I've seen some do that. So they're like, okay, so after 7 years, we get this forever. Yes. I've seen some do that. I've seen some do like other things. So that's just something, as we get to the little nuts and bolts of it, that the town can decide which direction you want to go with those kind of things. Like, or would you rather not pay for that and just kind of see where it is in 7 years? You know, there's some people that
So
decide.
we're
to do
really
that.
talking-
Compile all that information.
Yeah, yeah,
What we're really talking about is business planning for an advertising.
yeah, yeah.
You know, really, I'm not saying we're dancing around, we're asking very focused questions, develop a business plan, to figure out all of the operational costs,
Yeah, yeah.
capital and ongoing. And presumably, if this is run by the EDIC, boy, I can't even say that, I'm sorry, EDIC, then we are a separate corporation from Templeton, and we're operating off our own receipts, which is the intention of redevelopment authorities and EDICs, according to the chapters 120B, 120C respectively, blah, blah, blah. And then we do our thing, but you know, we're asking those right questions. And we're
Yeah,
gonna
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and please consider this, you know, a preliminary plan. We want to get your thoughts on it, and, you know, we would ask you to consider, you know, this in your budget as well.
Because going back a number of meetings, you know, we had talked about the fact that there would be things that the TCTV staff could be taken care of for EDIC, but we'd have to be very clear on the separation of funds, on responsibilities, making sure that monies are not commingled and, so, and all of that would have to be taken into account with this as well,
Absolutely.
to make sure. Yes, you need what you,
For
get
sure.
what you need and, yeah,
Agreements, invoices, separate bank, and we will have our
Yeah.
own banking system eventually.
Yeah.
Assuming the town meeting vote goes positively, it officially
Yeah.
creates the EDIC as that separate legal entity, separate outside of the town, Templeton Corporation.
Yeah.
Then it's the time to talk to amongst the board members, we have to go, okay, we need a bank account, just whatever, just do the mechanics of
Yeah.
setting up our systems. So,
financial aspects of it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly, well said, at the right time, whatever that is.
So we can come back with more hard numbers as well. And I think we want to even maybe produce a video of a lot of the signs that we saw, and we'll give you critiques of each one. Hands-on critiques.
If there are any signs out there that do the MASH thing, I really don't want to let go of that one. I think that's
I could show you one right now.
because that's where we started.
Yeah.
And I still think it's valid to have those posts someplace with the different things, the MASH signs, because it does, because, name any small, business in town. But but with the electronic sign, MASH sign, they may only need it for 2 months or 3 months out of the year. Maybe they're selling Christmas trees, maybe they're just selling
Seasonal business.
seasonal business. Yeah,
There's a MASH sign in Westminster right behind the other sign that we saw. Too bad about the telephone wires. And if you're coming 2A eastbound and coming around that turn where that intersection is, it's actually kind of hard to see. I didn't notice it before until we were there. I said, oh, there's a MASH sign. But you could picture that maybe on the town common, and I'm sure we can have more directions because there's really only the senior center one way. Everything else is the other way. And I think that's really tasteful, and for profit businesses, like some that we alluded to, they could buy a place on that, and then if their contract runs out, they don't want to renew, you get up there with a screwdriver or socket wrench or whatever and replace it with something else, so we could have these plates manufactured locally.
That's Alex's job.
well,
Just kidding, Alex.
Well,
I
I was
would
gonna say these signs are, they're made with, angle and things like that, and they can be just, if there's a certain, Christmas tree thing that happens, we can slide that in and slide it out, and it does, it doesn't have to hurt the look of the sign. The signs can be built to be interchangeable. Of course, you don't want too many on one side or the other. You want to try to make it look even a little bit, but yeah, you can have those things made and only up certain times of year, or like Steve said, or make new ones or upgrade them for people. So you can build those signs to be interchangeable style. You know what I mean? They're not perfect.
So this has versatility.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because I mean, you can see right there on that way that's built, like that one's just screwed in, but you can literally put, two angles on the side of it rather than having it individually screwed, where you can put it in certain spots and then just move them and pull them out. So there's lots of different things that you can do with those. And I also think this goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier with building a sign like look for the city, which I think is an important thing, like developing like a sign standard of how you want signs to look. And that starts with these kind of signs that we're going to be help developing, and then when businesses come, you have a look and a feel that you can say, this is how we like it to be, because this is how the town looks, this is how the big sign looks, this is how the little sign looks, this is how it looks, and it gives that standard for everybody. And I think that would be something worth looking into even now as we start developing these kind of signs, is what's the look that everybody wants, and then kind of try to stay in that realm.
And we can work up designs on that.
Yeah.
Design guidelines and staying keeping with the design bylaw, which I have yet to sit down and read, and I apologize.
I just want to make sure we don't lose the feel of a new
Yeah.
town.
Right.
It is really my biggest concern.
And it was very to the we keep calling this the MASH sign example. And it is, which I love. I mean, I really gravitate to this. I love it. But there's also the in the four lost towns in the quadrant, they had a similar MASH sign lookup, but it was basically about yay high, about 3 feet by 3 feet by about 4 feet high, and on each side of a square.
Mhm.
If you Google, there's still one in New Salem or something where it says, the town of Prescott was that, or whatever. So there are different iterations of this kind of multi
Yeah.
signage.
But even something like this, even if you could get just make it electric, right? And that way it's easy to change it out, or physical, either way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you just don't want to lose track of the mesh.
So this may help for people, especially if people don't want a digital sign on the common. I get that.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
a historical area, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's gonna be a time
So-
and place. I mean, I can really see the digital signs. I was looking at more traffic data on the day job website, and you've got about 4,500 people a day on 202. On either end of 202, just west of Baltimore Village. And then out by, just past the brow at the on ramp or off ramp to Route 2. And then you have about at 202 at the Winchendon line. You have about 8,600 cars a day, average daily traffic for EDT. So at those areas where you have the highway business zones, which are the yellow areas in the map, we kind of expect more of that kind of digital signage and at the entrance of those. But village centers, this might be a lot more appropriate than digital signs, because I do agree with you, Liz, on there's a place for digital signage and it's not everywhere, my individual opinion.
Yeah.
So definitely connecting with you on that issue. And I personally would hate to see digital in the village, the New England villages, because and everybody tells me that's the way of the world. Well, I am a little bit stuck in the incentives.
And this can be another revenue stream.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, we need a little signage advertising business plan.
Alex, is there actually a technical term for the MASH sign? I know that we're saying
I
MASH.
actually don't think there's a tech. I think people actually do say MASH sign a lot of times. Or I mean, we could call it like a multi-directional sign. I think that's one thing people say, multi-directional.
MASH
Uh,
sign.
I had no idea what you were talking about.
Okay, I kind of, it's generational.
Our heroes of
Yeah,
it.
we didn't grow up watching syndicated TV shows like MASH and Three's Company and Brady Bunch.
Oh, MASH as in it was utilized on MASH.
That's
Yes.
Yeah,
I
in the center of
see.
the camp,
See, I was thinking
What's
just
the
mash all of the directions.
fair interpretation.
Yeah, and they had kind of a rickety sign and, Tokyo was 3,000 miles this way and New York was 10,000 miles
Exactly.
that way.
Charles Emerson Listers, Boston was 8,000. Yes.
Yeah,
that's about-
Seattle was that, and so
Yeah.
the mileage to everything, so that's the
Okay.
MASH sign.
That's what we've been preparing.
Got it.
Just go home and Google MASH sign and yes, Michael, so
Thank you for the
That's
rest.
that's out here. That's the visual.
Amazing.
Okay, thank you, kind sir, for considering our new member.
It's a picture of a MASH sign.
Yes, for the public record.
So we will work on expanding this plan for you and try to bring you a more complete business plan. Thank you for your time.
And I will make a note to make sure that, and Liz reminded me earlier, on the agendas, we always have to have public comments, we always have to have board comments. We should keep digital signage discussion on all the time. I'd like to keep budget discussion and marketing on all the time, because there are some things that we come back to. And so I'm getting more in tune with keeping a regular agenda. So Liz, thank you for that. And just keep me honest about that and Lori.
And thank you, Alex, for your expertise.
Yes.
Oh,
And
thank you. Yeah.
I never thought it would be so much fun to go out and look at signs and educational.
We've been talking about it for an hour now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. If you guys have any other questions, let me know as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Alex.
Anything else, Q&A or comments from board or attendees on signage? I think we talked about it a lot. We covered it sufficiently for this evening. We okay? Okay, Alex, thanks again. Hang around if you want. Budget discussion is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't have anything for 4 under budget or 5 from RP, but there are items under budget. The only thing I would say under budget is, I said it earlier, I'd like to make sure we can leverage the 200,000 that sounds received, try to match some grants. I talked to Mike a little bit with Graceland about, leveraging our earmark grant dollars against an EDA, Economic Development Administration, EAA, Economic Adjustment Assistance grant. that particular grant program, it's a federal grant program, and they match dollar for dollar for economic development planning and implementation purposes. So let me do some more research on that, circle back, with Graceland and Adam. And we'll go through the chain of command there, and in the reverse order, if you will, Adam and Graceland. And, we were gonna have a lunch meeting a couple of months ago, and I got sick or something happened, and I had to pull the plug, so I think I was trying to have a working meeting on that
Right.
topic. That's all I really had to report on that, and so if anybody had questions on budget or any numbers issues, go ahead.
I have a question.
Yes,
To the
yes.
chair,
Shoot.
to Mike, actually. And this is because of the concerns that we have with the grants and having to have a revolving funds potentially.
This is what, so EDIC is
Right.
aware of the decision maker for that. So we have speed, we have flexibility and speed because we can decide how to enter into an agreement with money that's earmarked for us, whereas the town, it's based on town meeting vote. What is the purpose? Yeah,
All right, I just wanted.
yeah, but that's a good question. We have.
To get that problem too. No,
We have some
don't.
flexibility, so when, when we get that plan this time next year in front of the voters. We can't fund everything, there's gonna have to be sources of funding from other places, but that seed money that we got, you can't do anything without a couple of bucks to be able to have the flexibility to say, we wanna set this up, we wanna do this, you have to pay to get the plan, I mean. If we all didn't have full-time jobs and we wanted to sit around a table and write our own plan, we could do that, but we're contracting out to do that. And we have the ability to do it, as the residents watched us do tonight.
Okay,
But
all right.
that's a good question on the distinction between funds allocated to the state for this purpose and then taxpayer funds, like, Templeton.
I just.
Yep.
So we don't triple for that later.
Yeah, the EDIC will have its own bank account. It'll most likely have, a savings and a money market / checking account, just something simple. We'll have our own accountant and we'll get audited and because we're a public corporation, so we'll go through all that stuff. Just like a municipality does. And thank you also, lawyer, they consulted that you.
Okay.
Or to move forward, so.
And we'll have to also. I'm getting into the details too much, but we'll
This is
have,
the time to ask. We're
So-
forming an entity.
so when. That,
We formed an entity.
Well, yeah, but okay,
Yeah.
yes, you're right.
depending.
We did.
Yeah, okay, we'll move there. When we go to get audited and everything, we need to make sure we stay within the timeline that the town needs us to be within. To make sure we meet all of the other requirements, because I'm
Yeah,
presuming.
We're gonna work on that, even looking at, the Westminster town meeting. They had a special projects fund that they created. I don't know the details of that, but I don't think it takes too much to understand special projects. It wasn't a specific thing, they were saying, here is a left and right limit. For special projects, and we want to fund that. Taxpayers should have asked all kinds of questions. Well, what kind of projects can you fund with that? So as long as there's specificity, we in the town should prepare to have that capability, to have that flexibility, to not have to wait until town meeting to say, hey, we had this great idea, but the grant opportunity just ended.
I just want to make sure that when we go through and set up our calendar for audits and for anything else. That we make sure we give plenty of time for all of the stuff, all of the audit stuff, all the things we need to do to be able to make it to whatever the town may require of us from a reporting standpoint to report everything out to the entire community. Making sure we don't miss any due dates.
Yes, no, I agree. And in the day job, this is virtually all I do. Is this stuff
Okay.
with grants and compliance.
All right.
I can, no, just because I do my day job. I didn't bring it up tonight, so you need to ask these questions, because in the public needs to know that we are acting in good faith. They will be in compliance with every state, federal, local law, regulation, policy, and everything like that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else that's budget related, if anything? Hearing silence, I'll move on to 5, if that's okay. Anything under marketing that we would not have discussed under digital signage, it's marketing general appointed. I'm going to turn to Steve, anything marketing, well, then we'll just make sure.
I have, Mike, I have marked up the RFP that you did an excellent job on. I just have a few questions on that. We don't have to go over them tonight. But if you want to send me an electronic file.
Oh, sure.
What's the gist of the purpose of the RFP again, please? Just
For the,
Haley,
for
remind me,
digital,
because I forgot.
for digital marketing,
Thank you.
for EDIC and, somewhat with related marketing for TCTV, Montechusett TV, Digital Lab, et cetera. But, if we want to push that to the next meeting.
You
that's
wanted a
fine.
word copy, correct?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Can we have it as a separate line item then? For the next agenda item, it has digital marketing RFP. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
The rest of us looked at it, because that's 2 looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it was on the table at a prior meeting this winter and it was cold. We looked at it and then we took it back and like promised, we should hold on, I think. But we'll come back to the full board at the appropriate time, which eventually we're gonna get down to the next meeting. They're getting there. Anything else under marketing before I ask if it's okay to move on? Number 6. Vicky, you're good?
Yes, thank
Marketing?
you.
Guys? We're good?
Are
You
we,
guys, Mike?
are we fitting in general comments? General board comments?
The open meeting law doesn't allow us to do general comments unless it's related to something on the agenda.
Okay,
So that's the new open law meeting revision that passed a few years ago. However, so if you have to bring something up, we have to put on the agenda for the next time.
yeah.
Falls under one of these items.
Well, I guess I'll say it here then, because we've alluded to it a few times, but on our last meeting, we decided that we would go to the town council to make some analysis regarding whether that 2017 decision is valid. And I didn't know if we had actually
So
gone
we
through with
got,
that.
so we got it back that we have to go to town meeting.
Okay.
Request approval. And I will say for the record that I couldn't remember the history, and it came to me recently that when I was on that side, asking the board of selectmen years ago to create an EDIC under a former town administrator, under a former board of selectmen. That former town administrator said, the board of selectmen can approve. And then this town administrator conversing with council said, you gotta go to town meeting. So that's why we're going to town meeting.
Okay.
It's warrant article number 7.
Yep.
On the annual town meeting. Warrants, which is, and I'm not gonna try to do your date. What's the annual town meeting date? Mike?
15th.
The 15th of this month. It's article number 7. I'm planning on being there. EDIC members can understand talk about it. I'm planning on just saying, this is why we're here tonight, to get town meeting approval to officially bless create the.
Can I elaborate on that?
Please go for it. Yes. So I just want to give the historical.
We asked that they use town council to do that. Rather than reporting back to us, they just reported to Adam. Here was the language for what that article needed to be if they needed it. So Article 7 appears with what town council recommended needed to be amended for the edict to proceed with the plan and to have the town go on record to say, we established that there is a need for an EDIC. It's like a declaration. So section 2 of 121C, the legislative section already announced, but they said any town can announce that they did it. So the town never announced, the board just acted under the authority of section 3.
So it's an
So
announcement.
we're catching up with section 2 says you should have a town announcement that you need it. And then section 3, select board created it. Section 6 talks about the plan and having it, I think they called it was not 121C uses the older acronym for that housing and livable communities. But it said it's got to be section 6, the plan has to be in coordination with that entity.
The old DHCD.
So that's the 2 things that Article 7 achieves.
So the board of selectmen, per statute, did create it, so we are legal.
Correct.
And then the declaration is, and the
2007.
declaration is separate from creation. Thank you for explaining that, because I didn't have that piece of.
I really needed to be able
Thank
to
you.
understand it, especially if we were going to take any kind of action this evening. Again, I'll say Liz, I think that was a smart thing that Liz had incorporated into it to really bring us all together. So it was like, we're acting, But we're gonna make sure that we're gonna do it based on what this, the vote is. You know, if Article 7 comes back as failed at town meeting, we should have another discussion to say, how is this going to impact us moving forward? Because we won't have, we won't have a contract moving forward because it would have gone against our motion from this evening. And we wouldn't have a declaration, we would have a corporation without the town making that declaration that economic conditions exist in this community necessitating this kind of corporation. And then the disconnected livable communities and housing in livable communities, we'd have to talk through what would that impact be if we didn't have all of that and tied up with a bow on it.
Procedural question. Are you going to speak to Article 7?
I can.
Okay, I'll plan on being there, but I think because this is the first time I've heard of the lawyer's language that came back to you and you said it was like.
It didn't come back up to us as the edict official. Our instructions were, here's the language that you're going to need. Lori was moving out, working with the town administrator, so they did get that recommendation back from town council to say, this is what, yes, you do need an article, here's why, and here's what the language is. So when you read that, it accomplishes both.
So I'll be at the town meeting.
It's got a weird comma in there, but it doesn't change the substance.
Okay, so.
We're dotting i's and crossing t's.
Too many commas.
I'll be at the town meeting as chair, but however, if you would take the lead on
Sure.
explaining, because honestly, they know your face, you can explain it more eloquently than I can. And I have old information that quite frankly, I've already stated now what's happened in the past that I need to rehash. Steve has his hand up. Thank you, Steve.
Just for CCTV's purposes, do we know if we are a corporation or a committee?
Corporation, the city and EDIC is a corporation. Like Templeton is a municipal corporation, economic development and industrial corporation. First statute.
Just want to know what to call it. Is we like to call commissions, boards, committees.
Corporation. So to my knowledge, in Templeton, publicly, there's the town of Templeton as a municipal corporation. And the EDIC as a corporation, if I understand things correctly.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Berlin city.
Berlin 21C. We're saying all the right
That
things.
was signed in 2017.
Right. That was. Thank you. And I forgot the date. Thank you for this. Point. That was. And it took us 2 or 3 years to put the other second team. Some of it's exactly. Steve and I served on that ED committee.
And we have 5
May
members.
16th, we should be moving forward. Okay, we should be able to fire on all cylinders on May 16th.
Great. Okay, that's my takeaway today. Thank you very much for filling in my blanks.
That answered your question, Vicky, yes?
Yes, very much so. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
As long as our lawyer is happy.
I'm not your
No,
lawyer.
I don't. Our member who happens to be an attorney.
That's right. That's right.
Happens to practice in Massachusetts. Right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. But she's here as a volunteer and we love it. Marketing, anything under marketing then? So that's fair, some marketing and procedural, so that's good. So we'll see you at the town meeting, folks. Next meeting, number 6, July 1, 2024. My gut is, I'm not gonna say anything. Who wants to meet on July 1st, 2024? Or who wants to move the meeting to another date? Looking for input either way. I see that corner, but your smile's going up there. You wanna say something? Like probably.
Oh, not what you think I'm gonna say.
No, I don't know. I don't know. You know, it's close to the 4th. It's a high period of vacation time for folks. What's your pleasure?
This family.
Well, generally speaking, then, so let's.
So I can be available or not, it's up to everybody else.
Ditto.
Wow. So do you have plans and you're gonna be
We have
gone?
plans, I mean, we have a vice.
Yeah, you do. I plans on being on a vacation, but not going anywhere, so I'm gonna be around. And I'm fine with July 1st, but I just wanted to be respectful for.
Zoom in in your Hawaiian shirt.
What's that?
Zoom in your Hawaiian shirt.
From Baltimore?
Yeah,
Sure. Okay, so we're not
crazier things have happened.
Okay, all right. So we're okay with the next meeting on July 1st. There's nothing else on the agenda other than adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Seconded. Oh,
Liz, and we're gonna give it to Vicky. Spell your first name again for me.
VNKKI.
KKI. We have a first and a second. Any discussion, motion to adjourn? All those willing to adjourn. Vicky, I'll roll call. Vicky,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Michael?
Yep.
Stephen?
Yes.
I'll make it unanimous at whatever time it is, 7:40.
Yes.